So, welcome everybody back.
Yeah.
It's Veil of Sound. It's not Sunday, it's Friday, but we do this because we have a very special occasion. One of our favorite bands, as you know, our Norwegian/Swedish band, Årabrot, and they just released an EP today with several wonderful cover versions. And so I'm very happy that Kjetil is joining us today to talk a little bit about cover versions, like what makes them special, what do you have to do, you know, all that kind of stuff. So Kjetil, first of all, thanks for doing this. And let me ask that one question that is always coming up whenever somebody talks about cover versions. When is a cover version a good cover version?
Yeah, I think that I guess a good cover version is when you make an interpretation that makes the song your own in whatever way you would want to do that. Because there are several versions of cover songs. Either you just copy it, you know, or else you make some sort of very special version, however you would want to do that. Some, you know, I've heard cover versions that are impossible to, you know, you just don't know what song it is or whatever it is. It could be just drones or noise.
Exactly.
So, and in between there's also a number of interpretations, and sometimes I think that a cover is also when, you know, when Nina Simone, when she does Sinner Man, and when Nick Cave does his Stagger Lee, for example. There's numerous examples. It's all based on old traditionals, like from very back. So you don't even know who wrote them, and maybe it's just the words, and maybe it's not even the words. Like Stagger Lee is just the title, I guess. There's new words, and you know, it has been totally just redone, but they are still some sort of covers, in my opinion. It's very wide and broad, the sense of how you would want to do a cover. So basically, as long as you make a really good interpretation, I think, and you kind of you take ownership of the song, then it is a good cover. I also tried to, when I was looking at this, because I spent last afternoon looking through cover songs, and I realized that it's, you know, I could make 10 playlists of 100 songs probably, depending on how you do it. Because all of my favorite 60s rock bands, they all started their careers doing cover songs. And if it wasn't a cover song, then it was like in Motown, you had these guys writing songs for them. So it's literally like a cover song. And maybe several artists released the same song in the same year and all of these things. So, you know, the list could just go on. So I would just want to say that the list that I picked out here is based on some of my old favorites, like, you know, some of the songs that you know, have been important for me throughout the years. You know, some songs I've discovered new artists through the cover song and so on, you know.
Did you also, for example, choose a specific cover version because you like the cover version and maybe don't really care about the original? So where the cover is more important to you than the original?
Yes. Correct. And we've done with Årabrot, we've done The Money Will Roll Right In, based on Mudhoney's version. And we've done Cinnamon, based on Nina Simone, even though the rights for that song is Nina Simone's. So, but it's based on, I mean, it was released so many times before Nina Simone, so it's kind of hard to tell.
And I think that's also very interesting, because sometimes cover version can, like the cover itself can take on a life of its own, because I bet that sometimes, I don't know if you agree with that, but sometimes the cover version can become more popular and can overtake the original. I mean, like, I bet that everybody knows All Along the Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also think that not everybody will know that it's basically a cover of a Bob Dylan song.
Yes, exactly. And there are because when I thought about this yesterday, I thought of the punk bands in the late 70s, and also the more pop bands of the 80s did a lot of covers, and they became well known for the covers. And I came to think about, for some reason, I came to think about Kim Wilde, and she has a really famous song, which is a Supremes cover. It's probably one of her, what's it called again? But anyways, it's one of Kim Wilde's biggest hits, or if not the biggest hit she has, is a cover. And then there's Tainted Love, of course, which I include in the list. There's also,
isn't it You Keep Me Hanging On? Isn't
exactly,
You Keep Me Hanging On the cover? Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the Supremes, I think. And then also Hanging on the Telephone by Blondie as a cover. So, you know, and what was the other one? Because I'm a big fan of Shocking Blue, and that song Venus was covered by this 80s.
Bananarama.
Yeah, exactly, Bananarama, exactly. So, you know, you have a lot of those, you know, and I mean, if I didn't dig a bit, and if I didn't really, if I wasn't super interested, I would never have, you know, I wouldn't have guessed the Kim Wilde song to be a cover. I definitely wouldn't have known that the Blondie song was a cover either.
Yeah.
You know, and there are so many examples. Yeah.
Yeah, just like you mentioned Soft Cell, right? Like Tainted Love. I think everybody knows, like, the everybody knows that. But
yeah,
again, who knows that it's a cover? Not a lot of people.
Yeah.
When we talk about cover versions, you already hinted at it. You know, there are different approaches to doing a cover version. There's the classic, the classic copy version, basically. Or there are also sometimes very interesting cover versions. I still remember Scottish band Travis doing a wonderfully laid-back version of "Baby Hit Me One More Time." Yeah.
Oh boy.
But also there are like these very, very weird cover versions. Is there something you said where the people somehow take a hold of it? Is it a hold of it, or where? So let's put it otherwise. Is it more important for you that they make it original, like their own, or that they somehow do it in an authentic way?
Yeah, exactly. That it's a good question, because I think that either way, I already mentioned that. I think that as long as you make it, you take ownership to the song in whatever way that would be, I think it's a good cover. So that means that you can basically just totally rip it off for whatever, or just play it as the original, or else make it very strange, or however you would want to do it. I think I think it works as long as you make it your own. But that's the trick, though, because there's a lot of covers that don't do that, which so it lacks some sort of spirit, or it lacks some sort of, I don't know, some atmosphere, which would come from the artist, where it just doesn't happen. And I can probably think of some examples of that. You know, sometimes I think, you know, I don't think that David Bowie, for example, he was very good at most everything he did, but I'm not sure. There are a few cover songs that he
did a few Beatles covers, didn't he?
Yeah, and he did some a Rolling Stones cover too, I think, which I don't know. But he also did, I included David Bowie in the list too. He did a fantastic song, which is also a Nina Simone song, on Station to Station. So, I mean, you know, it really depends. So maybe the big troubles will come when big artists are trying to back up their first couple of popular singles with a cover that maybe the label or the manager have picked out for them.
Yeah.
You know, you've
Yeah.
seen that
Yeah,
through
yeah.
history, and
Yeah.
that's when it kind of
difficult, right?
you know.
What do you think about like humorous versions, like the stuff that Weird Al Yankovic is doing? Like, for example, taking the song, either transferring the music, turning it into polka, or taking the original music and transferring the lyrics. I still remember he did a wonderfully hilarious version of American Pie and turned it into a description of a first Star Wars movie. What do you think about humorous cover versions?
Well, I'm born, you know, I'm old enough to be a teenager in the 90s, so I am part of the of the 90s. So Weird Al Yankovic is part of my musical DNA somehow. So I'm totally fine with that. I just now, when you talked about this, I came to think about a cover that I should have included on this list, which is The Residents. They do an absolutely crazy version of some Beatles song. It's absolutely ridiculous because it's played in like every note possible at the same time. So it's so unmusical, but you know, and it is, I guess you could see it as a funny thing, but also it's, you know, it's also quite it's artistic and brave in a way too, and I find it, and I think that The Residents touches something which is very important in music, which is playfulness and sort of you know, they get rid of all the rigid boundaries and shapes that most music is, you know, restricted by. But I'm totally fine with humorous versions, and I think that, you know, a little humor in there is maybe it's more needed than you would usually see.
Do you think that there are any like stylistic limitations? I mean, like over the years we have seen thousands of genre affiliated cover versions. I know that there is like a bossa nova cover album of the Ramones, which isn't even bad, or like reggae versions of lots of artists, where you have like reggae records which are only police records or only police songs, right? What do you think about those?
Oh yeah, I've noticed, and I've checked some of them out, and it's it gets a little too, you know, I'm fine with them doing that, but I don't have time to check out all of that stuff. I have, you know, enough time with all of the originals.
And it also gets boring at a point, right? Where you have like, if it's only doing the police in reggae, or if it's only like Ramones bossa nova, at a point it gets boring. I totally agree with that. I mean, like stylistically, I think there are basically really no limitations to covers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but still, sometimes if you do a good thing too much, it's not a good thing anymore, right? You've already mentioned being a kid from the 90s. Is there any particular moment, or is there anything where your love for cover version started from? Because we must say that Årabrot have not only released this EP today, but they have already done numerous covers on the singles, on the records. So you like covering songs. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I never thought about it that way. It's just it started out with, you know, my whole musical career, my whole love of music started with Nirvana, as everyone else basically in the early 90s, you know. And they had Love Buzz on Bleach. I was really into Bleach. I was listening to Love Buzz, and I, via Love Buzz, found out there was a band called Shocking Blue, which, you know, I think is a brilliant band.
Yeah,
at least two LPs are really great. And from there on, I really got into Helmet for a long time in the 90s. That was how I kind of developed my guitar way of playing the guitar, some sort of mix between Page Hamilton and Kurt Cobain, I guess. At least how to approach it. And
by the way, do you know the most famous artist that Helmet ever covered? at least in my opinion. Yeah.
The most famous. Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did. Army of Me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, they've done a lot of covers, and they had a song called Primitive. I love that song, and I had no idea it was Killing Joke. And via Helmet, I found out about Killing Joke, one of my all-time favorite bands. So I think it has to do with that. I think it has to do with just those episodes, you know, back then when I was a teenager, digging through the crates or however we found out about music at that time. I can't even remember, but somehow I got, you know, I was digging deeper, and it was via these covers. You know, there was also, as I said, the Mudhoney one, The Money Will Roll Right In.
Did you then also, when you listened to the MTV Unplugged by Nirvana, did you then also, through that one, find out about Leadbelly, just like I did? You know, that was like my introduction to Leadbelly.
Yes, and Meat Puppets. So
I had heard of them before, but yeah, that gave even the Meat Puppets another push, right? That's true.
Yeah, exactly. And I was so young and naive, so I didn't really know anything. So everything was new, and I think that just sparked it. I was aware of David Bowie, but I didn't know he had The Man Who Sold the World even at that time. So it was just, you know, listening to the Unplugged, it was just it opened up this whole new world for me. And you know, so in between albums or whatever, we do a cover song here and there. It all depends, and it's all every time. It's just, you know, it's for fun.
So when we look at the new EP, the Heart EP, why did you choose those tracks in particular? Is there like an overarching theme behind it?
The idea was yes and no. The idea was to make an EP which was a celebration of me and Karen's life here in the church. I wanted to do that because it was 2020 and there was a pandemic and everything just stopped. And finally, we had some time to rethink a few things and think over a few other things and make some changes within the band and with the, you know, even with like the mechanics of the band, like also the managements and all of this, like the business part of the band. So finally we had a good period of time to just breathe and be able to rethink things. And we did some changes. Karin became a permanent member, which she's never actually been. And to celebrate this, I wanted to make an EP, and I wanted to make it a Heart EP. Just, you know, why not? And I thought that would be nice. And from there on, I just came up with the idea of doing cover songs only, and then having Karin sing them. That was the initial idea. Mm-hmm. It proved a little harder than first expected. So I had about 10 songs, and some of them were old favorites, other ones were sort of new favorites, and some of them were odd choices, something that, you know, I wouldn't really obsess about, but that I really liked there and then. So let's say we had around 10 options, maybe 12. And first of all, trying to record this in the time of the pandemic was a nightmare. We couldn't get the people over. The Norwegian border was closed, so we couldn't get the drummer over. Our producer was sent back home when he got here at the airport for some strange reason, and so on. But finally, with a lot of backs and forth, we managed to do the first couple. We had to do 3 sessions, actually. The first session, and then because of these 10, 12 songs, there were a bunch of them that just didn't work out. It didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. So though, you know, we had to throw away about 5 of them. Then there were a couple that we just couldn't figure out somehow musically in a different way. And so in the end, it was just the ones that worked out. with the exception of Children of the Revolution, which was made for a theatre production in Norway. So we decided to add that one because the other ones didn't work out. So it was kind of by per chance, but I had a slight idea about, like, Lightning's Girl. I knew that would work. And I was really hoping that doing a Coil cover would work out, even though that's dangerous area. That could
it really is.
Yeah,
because it's such a unique project and such a unique style, right? It's but you did that very well, I think. And I mean, like, come on, let's be honest. Je t'aime is like saying, you're saying that to her, right? In a way.
Yeah. You know, I wanted to do that because it was it's the impossible cover. Nobody's done it before. There's been a cover with without the vocals that went into the hit list sometime in the 70s, but nobody has done it. There's been interpretations by certain weird bands, like Psychic TV did one, and I think that Einstürzen Neubauten had it as an outro or whatever.
I also think they did.
Yeah. But nobody really did that song because it's impossible to do. And no wonder, because it's perfect and it's too erotic and it's too just out there to be done again in a way.
Yeah.
So maybe Primal Scream and Kate Moss could have done it. I don't know. Probably not. But then I thought of just doing it as a church prelude, you know. So that was his, and it's only for the ones who buy the actual Heart EP.
Well, guess who did?
Thank you.
Of course. And so everybody sees we could talk about cover versions all day and night.
Yeah.
But we also want the people to listen to the lists that we made. We will also try to include two of Kjetil's all-time favorites, which are not on not on Bandcamp and not on Spotify. Maybe you can give us, if you have, like, an all-time top 5 cover versions list of yours.
Oh, 5 is hard, but it's definitely Big Black's The Model is one of my absolute favorites. Also, the first one on the list, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, is one of my favorites. I really love that song. Also, there's, you know, every time I've gone to the States and you go to these bars and they have the old school jukebox. Yeah. And they usually, that song is there, but you get 11 minutes out of your dollar. So you really get your money's worth.
True.
And it's such a great song, you know.
By the way, another one, if they have it as a full version, another one where you definitely get something for your buck. What is the name? Santa Esmeralda, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. I think it's something like 16 minutes or so.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's very long. Yeah, that's true. That's cool. Other than that, three more from back in the days. It was definitely, you know, it's hard to tell. It's either, you know, I really love The Money Will Roll Right In by by Mudhoney. That's a great cover. I thought it was Mudhoney's song for years, and it could have been. It's an excellent song, and I would actually want to. They only had I could only find the live version on the Spotify. The one I've been listening to was a CD like compilation, which was a studio recording. Then there is one of my favorite all-time songs. Is Final Solution by Pere Ubu, which was originally written by Rocket from the Tombs. So it's the same people, I guess, but it's a new band. You know,
that is also a question, right? If anybody is involved in the cover, who did the original? Is it a cover?
Yeah, so it was released by Rocket from the Tombs, but it was re-recorded by Pere Ubu, and it's not all the same people. It's David Thomas, just one of them, but also Dead Boys did the same thing with Sonic Reducer, which was written for Rocket from the Tombs, but that whole story, I think, is so unique, and so all of those three bands are one of my you know, like my favorite punk bands, or post-punk, or whatever you would call them. So yeah, so that one for sure, Final Solution. Also, back in the days, Motorcycle, Norwegian band Motorcycle, released an EP called Mountain, and the last song was, or the third song was, The House at Punil Corners, which is Jefferson Airplane, and it's an absolutely brutal, crazy version, which was very influential for Årabrot in the early days. Was that 4? Oh my god,
that was 5 already.
Was it already 5?
It was already 5. As usual, Veil of Sound interviews have to end with quick-fire questions. So I thought I'll give you a few alternatives. Sometimes it's bands, sometimes it's songs. And I want you to decide. We're in a time and age of protest. People are protesting, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. But protest songs are very hard to do. But in the 90s, there were a few. So I'll give you Rage Against the Machine and the Beastie Boys, who also protested for Tibet back then. If you had to choose covering one of those 2 artists, who would it be? Rage Against the Machine or the Beastie Boys?
Ooh, that's a brilliant question. I would have done, you know what? I would have done Beastie Boys. That would have been cooler. It would have been easier in a way to do Rage Against the Machine, because I mean, you know, it's a rock band. But yeah, Beastie Boys would be really cool to do.
Yeah. 2 songs from one band. Which one would you do? Take My Breath Away or The Metro by Berlin?
Take My Breath Away. Oh, which one? What's the last one?
The Metro.
The Metro. Which song is that again?
The Metro. Driving on the Metro. That is also Berlin, who started out as a punk band. Nobody would imagine.
Metro? I don't even know that song, I think.
Yes, then your choice is probably obvious.
Yeah, the first one.
Take My Breath Away.
Metro. Yeah. Take My Breath Away. Yeah, because I mean, Karin could sing that. I'll let you.
2 bands that share a member, Funkadelic or Parliament. Which one?
Would share a member with?
No, was it? Both bands share George Clinton, right? So, which Clinton band would you choose to cover, Funkadelic or Parliament?
Yeah, Funkadelic for sure.
Again, 2 tracks by the same artist. Which one do you choose? Blowin' in the Wind or The Times They Are A-Changin'?
Times they are changing. Bob Dylan, yeah.
Led Zeppelin versus Pink Floyd.
Very good question. Yeah, that's the tricky one. Because of it's a hard one. I think that, you know, I think Pink Floyd. I think I listen more to Pink Floyd, those early albums, than I do Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin is so good, but it's kind of, you know, you put it on and it's really rocking, and then you put it away for a time. While Meadow and some of those crazy records are, you know, I keep coming back to them. So Pink Floyd.
Also because I think on some of the Floyd records there is just so much to notice and to discover, right? You know, Zeppelin was awesome at what they did. Again, same band, 2 tracks. Van Halen. Would you rather do Panama or Jump?
Oh my God!
Or I'll give you a third one. Hot for the Teacher.
Okay, you know what? I was never a fan, so it's impossible. I would say I'll get Karin to sing again, and we'll do Jump.
You get again 2 bands, and you have to choose one of them. Gang of 4 versus Devo.
Oh yeah, you know, it's so hard. These are great questions.
I'm just pushing you towards the next cover EP.
Yeah, exactly. I would probably choose Devo because then we could play Mongoloid. That would be fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. And now to twist it a little bit, I'll give you songs that have been interpreted, and you have to choose whether you want to listen to the cover version or to the original. Hallelujah. Would you rather have the original Leonard Cohen version or the Tim Buckley version? Jeff Buckley, sorry.
Jeff Buckley, yeah. Yeah, I would have the original Leonard Cohen for sure.
We've already mentioned it. All Along the Watchtower, Dylan or Hendrix?
Yeah, it is a tough one. I've included Jimi Hendrix in my list, so I'll say him then.
And the last one we can do two. The Man Who Sold the World, Bowie or Nirvana?
You know what? I'd say Bowie, unfortunately.
I would actually choose Nirvana because for me that's one of the greatest covers ever. Although it's actually pretty close to the original, but the way he does it is just awesome. And the last one, and that is one of which the original artist even said it's not my song anymore. Hurt. Johnny Cash versus Nine Inch Nails.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Johnny Cash, absolutely. I would choose Johnny Cash's version. Yeah, those are very good questions because those two, like when choosing these artists, you've been very good at that because they are very close. Many of these, it's hard to tell which one. So sometimes, yeah, I'd prefer both, but good choice, good questions.
Would you agree with Trent Reznor when he says, "Hurt is not my song anymore"?
You know what? I understand what he means.
Yeah.
It seems like I can kind of tell how, from reading about how he, first of all, how he was personally at that time, and how he has approached the song in the studio. I can understand that he it became a different beast, with Johnny Cash and Rick Rubin. I guess he was involved there quite a lot.
Yeah, Rubin always was the one who came to Johnny with a list of songs that he could choose from.
Exactly. So that's a brilliant, choice, and it's become a different beast for sure.
Yeah,
because the other, the Nine Inch Nails songs has a totally different vibe to me. It's very, very industrial, and with the whispering vocals and all of that. That's uses all of the industrial metal tricks. The book of industrial metal.
Yeah.
And Johnny Cash's version is nothing like that. That's more of that's a life lived, and it's a song sung by it's almost like, I don't know, Johnny Cash is almost like he has all of this culture within his body that just comes out of him.
Yeah. Although what I also often notice is that not a lot of people notice that there is still a hint of that heaviness in Johnny Cash's version, because if you listen to the way the piano is played and the heavy way that the piano is played, that is a touch of the industrial origins.
Absolutely.
I end with a fun fact question. Do you know which artist was happy that his song was turned into a trad by football fans?
What?
There is one artist whose song has been turned into nowadays a trad song, a traditional, by football fans.
Yeah. Was Jack White happy for his?
Yes, he was. He was. He said, "Finally, I've been able to write a trad."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fair enough. He's written a lot of good music. So I wonder, I'm trying to see myself in the same position. you know, having all of these people who maybe don't care about music so much bellow, you know, and scream their way through one of my riffs. But maybe it's probably been good for his, you know, financially, and he can do really good stuff with his label and his new music stores. Have you ever been to those stores, the Third Man stores?
Well, not the original one. Not
have
the
you
one
been to the one
in
where is it? Is it Nashville, the original
yeah,
one?
the original is Nashville. That's not where I was. There is one, which other city in the U.S.? I visited one in the U.S. Where is it?
Oh, there's another one. Okay. So, no, but I was thinking of the London one, because there's a new one in London.
I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, I was there in August, and I just walked by it in Soho. And I mean, it is, whatever you would think of Jack White, whatever you would think of any of his bands, whatever, it is really cool. I mean, it's almost too cool. Everything is just so well thought through and done, and it's, you know, super cool stuff.
So, and that is also something where I say, like, you got to give him props for that, right?
Oh my, super respect. Whatever Definitely. You would think of the man or whatever, you know, it's just, you know, he also, for him, I'm not a Jack White fan, but I can listen. If you listen to his guitar tone, oh, I mean, you can't possibly get any better than that, you know.
And we all remember that moment when we first heard Seven Nation Army, and we all were, that's a bass.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him play on German television, but I was in the audience that night, and I seen him do it, and I was like, oh shit, it's really not a bass guitar. He stuck to his words. No bass on White Stripes. Kjetil, thanks for doing this. All the best of success with the Covers EP. I'm already looking forward to the next one with the Beastie Boys and Take My Breath Away and Funkadelic.
Yeah. What you might want to write, if you want to. You can. We've been recording with you know, there is a new album in the pipeline for next year. So this is just you know, it's a little build up.
Yes.
Yeah. A little build up to the album. We're gonna do a new recording with Alan Johannes of Queens of the Stone Age and
Finger 11, right?
Yeah, he was in, and he's in PG Harvey's band, and he's been everywhere. Alan.
So, Kjetil, have a good day. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I hope that we can do this again. Thanks for having me.
Of course we can.
It's real fun. Thank you, Torsten.
Thank you very much. Say hello to Karin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.